Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Chris and this is Regular Guy Training. Now, before I go ahead and get into the subject matter of this video, I'm going to cover a couple of things first. Now, number one, if you do not wish to support YouTube and what it is that they're doing, I understand that they're a private company, they're going to do whatever they want, but so am I. I'm on BitChute and Full30. Links to both channels are in the description below, so if you want to check us out there, more power to you. Also, upcoming classes, a link in the description below for all of the available classes so far this year. More will be added to it as the military fiscal year resets. But upcoming classes here are in June. That's for Pistol 1 and 2 at Bud's Gun Shop in Lexington, Kentucky. So if you're interested in taking those, go ahead and check us out there. Now, this video was requested by somebody, and I'm going to be honest with you, I forgot about doing this video a couple of times, but you know, I figure a lot of people would pull some decent information out of this. This video is about berm building. Right now, a lot of guys are sitting on private land outside of city limits and all that stuff. Check the legalities of what it is that you're doing. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to talk about the legalities of that subject. You are going to have to figure out what's going on with your county's ordinances on noise and all that. So it's a topic that you're going to have to research in your area. But when you get past that part and you say to yourself, you know, I want to build a private range and all that stuff, the next couple of things that you're going to ask is, well, how do I build a berm? Now, the easiest answer is that, you know, you find a guy that's got a bulldozer, or you get taught how to use one and rent one yourself, and you push up some dirt. But there are a couple of things that go into that actually make it a little bit easier for you, and a couple of things to watch out for. Now, first and foremost, when you're moving dirt and stuff, you'll notice that there's a lot of cleared or really patchy dirt that pushes itself up into that berm. There's also a bunch of stuff that runs off that away, and there's some cleared land behind you. You're going to have to start a little bit of a ways back, and it depends on really what you want. If it were me, I would say the absolute minimum for pushing up dirt into a berm would be something like 25 yards, so that way you can have something to push back into it. Second, you'll lose something like 3 or 4 feet of the dirt that you push up the minute it starts to rain and compact all that dirt. Because once you put it up there, it'll be nice and loose, and then it'll just start getting back down. Now, if you watch some of the earlier videos that I've done, this berm was a little bit taller, but that's because it was reinforced. Like, it got whittled down a lot, but then it got reinforced, and right after that, we started to lose some height to it, mostly because of rain and all that, right? But as you could probably see right now, aside of what's most recently been shot, it's really hard as far as just how well compacted it is. A couple other things. If you are trying to clear like trees and stuff out of the way, the next thing that you can use to your advantage in this is, don't simply think about just losing the trees. Right, like if there are a few trees between me and over there, when you knock down the trees to create some space, don't just lose them and turn them into firewood. Throw them into the berm. It helps reinforce the stuff that's going up on top of it, and helps add a little bit of rigidity to what it is that you're using, especially with different soil type compounds. Like out here, you have a really thick clay that's actually really hard to defeat and really likes to cement itself to things, you know. That option is not as great if we're talking about like Florida sugar sand. You might actually have to throw in soil additives and stuff to that. So it depends on what it is that you're trying to do. Next thing, people talk about minimum height and width and all that stuff. That guy right there is about 10-ish yards thick by about, now I'd say about 9 feet tall. Okay, it was at like 12, 13, but lost a few feet because of the rain. Now, depending on how much you shoot, obviously you're going to have to reinforce your berm. Now, if it's the volume at which that I do shooting out here, and occasionally there's classes out here where a bunch of people put thousands of rounds into the berm, obviously that's going to need to be reinforced under a shorter amount of time. Like for instance, what we're looking at here between the rains and everything else, it's probably going to have to get reinforced round about once a year, right? Also understand that, you know, weather is just going to eat away at it depending on where you're at. If where you are, the locale is very dry, wind itself will eat your berm, right? Depending on where you are. So really pay attention to what it is that's going on to your berm, and don't neglect it. Neglecting it is how you sail rounds through berms, and then we could have all kinds of issues after that. Additionally, think about the terrain that you want to put a berm on, right? What you don't want to do is the area that you end up standing while you're doing the shooting part is flooded all the time, right? As you could probably tell, this place gets rather muddy, and you've seen it before, but the thing is that this berm right here is on a slight incline from everything else. So when it rains, it'll get nice and muddy and all that other shit, but there's a slight decline, and there's actually like a short hill that runs off that way, that runs off all that water. And if you look really closely, you can actually see where some of that water runs off too, and it gets the range drier. And you know, if you have something like a couple of days, it's mostly dried up. If you have a week, it's desert dry almost. You see what I'm saying? So pay attention to the terrain at which you're trying to put up your berm, and then just be cognizant depending on where you are and stuff. You don't want it to be directly in front of a set of houses from some dude's farm a couple 100 yards back. Obviously you want to be very conscious of what it is you're doing. Now the next thing that you want to talk to is more of a social aspect kind of a thing, and this is what it's more of a courtesy kind of deal, right? As you guys could probably tell in past videos, you guys have seen cornfields and stuff on either side of this berm. Be friendly to your neighbors. Let them know what it is that you're getting ready to do, and honestly, like depending on whether or not you view pissing them off as acceptable, my personal opinion is that the last people that you piss off are farmers. You know, you let them know what's going on, and then you ask them if it's all right. You tell them what you're going to do, exactly how much of it's going to happen, and then if a special circumstance like you end up shooting in the dark or something like that happens, you let them know beforehand. You know, just common sense type shit. But realistically speaking, I mean, there ain't much to it. Once it goes up, it's kind of expensive to start, but then, you know, adding to it or whatever is not that bad. You know, once you have it, it's there, and you're not dealing with major issues anymore. So, is what it is. But that's all I got on this video. If you have any questions or anything like that, or if you've built berms for your own personal ranges, throw them in the comments box below. I'd love to hear them personally. Now, if you want to come out and train with us, obviously you can check out the link in the description below. If you want to host us, all it takes is an email to us. I'll leave the email that we go back and forth with people on this subject in the description also. We go to private land, right? And if you were considering it and all that stuff, you'd actually be amazed how cheap it is. It's kind of a pain in the ass to do, honestly, but you'd be amazed how cheap it is to put up your own berm and set up your own little private range. So if you want to host us, private land or not, we're available. Just shoot an email to us if you want that to happen. As far as, you know, because people obviously ask, well, are you putting up a range then? The answer is yes. We're getting ready to build one out in Winnemucca, Nevada, so that the California boys can play. Number one, and number two, not sealed the deal yet, but we're looking at Chattanooga as well, Chattanooga, Tennessee. So, you know, there's all that information there. So there it is. If you want to support us through Patreon, that's absolutely appreciated. It helps us fund the soldier program, where we come out and train soldiers for free, pay for flight, all of flight ammo, gear, all that stuff. And that's what a lot of you guys provide for. And if you want to do that and come out and train with us for super cheap, I would highly suggest checking out our $35 a month program. If you had seen, or if you simply do some math, you'll notice that for not very much a year, for the equivalent of around 2 classes a year, you have something like, you have unlimited training opportunities with us, so long as you're signed up to that individual program. So, you know, if we come out and train near your area a lot, it's something to look into. Other than that, if you want to check us out on Facebook, there's a link in the description below for that as well. And remember, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.